Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself on the master control there. Um, we've had a couple of competing news items here this morning. We've had the change in non-farm payrolls being less than forecast, so negative news item. And then a positive news item, marginally better unemployment rate, marginally less than what was forecast. So that's a positive. It looks like that's taken a little bit of a lead here in terms of our gap open. We've had a bit of a broad swing though on that, 76 up to 84 almost, back down to 77, and now back up to 81. Looks like we want to climb a bit here though. So we had the beginnings of a 3C going down, but with the strength of the news here, unless that really is some very strong angles in that bias, and even now as we see the 5 minutes starting to turn, we'd be keeping our focus more toward the buy side. Starting to see a little bit of a spike EK right now, and our 3 minutes are down. Bias, we have almost a 10-point range today, so we look to see a 60-degree bias on those ergodics, and just had our EK pop in there with a red signal. Gonna watch. Hopefully people can hear me now. Just gotta watch for our stop here on this. And this EK is a little bit tenuous. I just got out with start of the spike in the volume bias to the other direction here. And it still may go down, but it's a little bit sporadic here at the moment, I think, with the two competing news items, and of course the 10-minute ergodics not really being agreeable. I did get out at a tick down on that EK. 3-minute bias is not close to the 60 degree yet. It's maybe 40 degrees, so we really want to see that angle down a little bit more. Once these 1 minute start to turn, that might give us something, but right at the moment, it looks like our EK just came back in again. And I just filled my half a point on that EK at 80. Was it at 80.50? Looks like it's going to go down here a bit, very close to a 3B. Someone's saying, yeah, it looks like that's almost into a 60-degree angle. As it begins to move down, it looks like it's starting to collect that a little bit more. And at less than a 10-point range, we want to see as near to 60-degree angle in those biases, particularly, as we can see. And certainly holding that last EK for a point target would have worked out, but that is okay. We're looking for a pullback here. Still now have nice angle on that 5-minute bias. To have a pullback, which In some ways, there's a bit of an EK there on that pullback. We can look now for an opportunity again to go down. Do have our 3B is also contained within that, a 3-1. 317s are starting to turn at the top. There is an attack cross. We might see another EK within this come in very shortly. 79.50 is an entry there on a 3B. Volume bias angle down. Keep our eye on the 5-minute bias. It's still angled decently. 3 minutes still straight down. 1 minutes are nicely down as well. Could be having an EK here in the volume chart. And still within a 10-point range. And I'm looking at the, well, I almost set my thing at the 3 ticks. Did move through that point level. I did set it at the 78.50. Captured a point on that 3B. Can look for another pullback here and another opportunity. Having broken through that little mini support level, it might start to move a little bit quicker down to 77.50 level, and then below that the 75.75 level. A little bit of sideways movement here. There's a bit of a pullback discernible. There was another 3B arrow there. A little bit of a pullback here on spike EK in the opposite direction here. I do have a point of resistance here at 79.75. Still have good 5-minute bias. Volumes are starting to turn here. Bias is spiking down, as in the volume, 317 as well. And as I say, 77.50 is another, 77.25 really, is that next support level. I'm within 10-point range here. At first blush targeting 3 ticks. It might move through my 77, 75 quickly to be able to capture a point at 77.50 or even below that with the next level down to 75, 75. Still have a solid 3B. Having two red 5 minutes now. Not enough angle though. And it's been sitting here for a while at 77, 75, 77.50 there. It just broke through, and I just took my 3 ticks on that. 77.50 is a bounce point. It could bounce up off of here before filling. It actually just went through. So if anyone held for the full point on that, certainly would have just got it there. And it's dropping. But for that exit there, that would have been another signal to get in for a very quick drop there. Still have a 3B, looking for a nicer pullback here. 75, 75 was that low. It just touched off it. We expect it to bounce off of that to some degree. But we certainly are in the throes of another signal here looking for. And we may be beginning to close that gap again here. As I said, there was competing news items. The non-farm payrolls was significantly less than what was forecast, and the unemployment rate was just marginally better. So there was, I guess, the euphoria of that. There might have been some overseas numbers that pushed us open more than what that information would have done. And certainly we've come into 5B right now, even a 5A. There's a signal. And we are starting to fall a little bit more. I was in at 75.50. Tried to get it down there, but just took my point at 74.50 on that. Call it a 5A, at least on a transition basis right now. Well, we did have another signal there, though, that we didn't really have a pullback in order to really consider that. We have a pullback here now for a 5A. We've had a spike EK in the other direction, and also coupled with the 1 minute starting to turn. Volumes might be starting to crest here. 1 minutes, though, are coming up sharply. Bias is still deeply red, though. Still have our 5A. Signal, 5A. Actually got in at 75. Almost at 10.5. So that was a double situation for me. Sorry, what am I talking about? That was an entry situation for me. 75. And I've got my target below the 73, 75, but prepared to take the 74. We are almost, well, we pretty much are on the tips of the 10-point range here. Very nice information in the 10 and 5. Spiking down in the volume in 317. 1 minute bias is off the chart. And we're certainly point and a half down below the last low of the morning there at 75, 75. Tens are beginning to become strong. I like to see that bottom one curve a little bit more down for them to come together. And, ultimately at the end of this, we could be closing the gap to 69. We might have a little bit of movement, though, up and down in the midst of that. A strong EK there with a real extension on the 317s. for an opportunity to add to my position here in terms of improving my break even. Minute 75, and I've got another half point stop just because there is a little mini point of resistance there at 77, which is my stop. Volumes have actually, our 317s have turned here. Our 3 minutes are starting to turn at the bottom. We'll just have to pay attention to that, but still have a 10-5 here. There's a transition from our 10A. Starting to flatten on one of those 10 minutes. Might have an EK forming, get a little bit more clarity in those volume ergodics right now after a little bit of plotting challenge there, it looks like. You can see that they're both red right now. Nice strong attack was forming there in the volume. And that was also an EK within the midst of it still being a 10-5 from our 75 position. I actually did choose to double on that, though it came in a little bit later than what I was hoping. I did a double at 75.50. My break even to 75.25. And I've got my target a little bit below, but I just ended up on that bounce back, ended up taking my point there on that double up at 74.25 on that 10-5. And I've got a little bit of play now in terms of my total for today. I'm actually sitting at 5 points just on that last double. Went from 3 to 5. So I can risk a point here and still be still honoring my 4-point profit rule. So you're looking for something strong here. We're back almost to and we are in a 10-point range, as I say, just on the tips. We're in a 10-point range. We've got a 5B that's really emerging here. Volume starting to turn again. 1 minute, volumes 317s, 1 minute. And we could attack this 74, 73, 75 again. This will be the third time we will have attacked it. 3 minutes look like they're turning back to red at the bottom. We do have the 10-5 still, as well as I mentioned the 5B, which is a nice underscore to the 10-5. was another signal, 74, managed to get in at. And we could be continuing our run down here. Certainly now extended beyond the 10-point range. I do have a 73 stop, which is just a 1-point stop to preserve my 73 stop, a 75 stop, which is a 1-point stop to preserve my break even. And I just rolled through and took, no, it hasn't taken me out yet at a point at 73. Flittered almost on it just as I was entering it, and it didn't do it. It actually did it right now. So there was another 10.5 there. Now I have still 2 points that I can risk now, sitting at 6 points for the morning. Have another pullback here, volumes and 317s moving in tandem with each other. I like to see as they pull back, maybe back to the top of the 317 channel, and certainly right there was a bit of an EK that just popped in. I think signal then EK. That was just a very quick action there. Didn't even have a chance to consider that there. But now still looking at the 10.5 down here. We've had a nice jump spike pullback. We're at the top of the 317 channel. Still have a 10.5. 317 starting to turn. We have rounded ourselves into a late stage, though, mind you. But we have rounded ourselves at up 10. Arguably, even on that last signal that we got in at 74, though, it was just starting to come together there in the 10-minute ergodics. I didn't mention it as we were just looking at the 10.5, but now they're definitely coming closer together. We are 3 points from that 69 level. It looks like the close actually was somewhere in the range of 67. Uh, 67.50 or 68.50 actually, it looks like. $68.50 was the close yesterday. Had a nicer pullback here. Still have our 10.5 in place, though. 3 minutes are starting to look like they're turning. Might be an attack cross forming there. So still bigger perspective. We are looking in terms of closing that gap. But we might have, as we see here, a bit of a bigger pullback through that 317 channel line, but perhaps even to the 75, 50 level, which would be channel line supports in, resistance in 10, 5, and 3. You can see that clearer in the 3 there. Have to watch for the 10 and the 5, though. They are in a position that if there's a strong turn in the 3 minutes, there could be a turn there as well. And we might have a level earlier and not shown on our 10 minutes at 72, 72.50 level that we are bouncing off of here, and it could be a strong bounce. Volume starting to turn here. Maybe an attack cross. Red might be forming. A little bit of sideways motion here. We still have our 10-5, though they are at the bottom. 3 minutes of both turn green. Perhaps a green attack cross in the 3 minute, though it might be backing off there. So a little bit of question mark here in the market as to whether in the near term it wants to move up higher. There's a signal that is a 10-5, but it is one that we will need to watch closely with the 3 minutes turning. Bias in the 3 minute looks like it's still angling down. The volume ergodics have come down. 1 minutes look like they're starting to want to turn. I had the ability to risk a couple of points here. Got in at 74.25. Little mini support level at 73.75. One minute spiking down huge in its bias. Starting to see a spike down in the 317. And I'm contemplating just taking 3 ticks or half a point here. Though we do still have straight down 10 minute and 5 minute ergodics. Still would like to see the 1 minute's turn down here. Our 317s may be starting to move up, and I did just take half a point. I'd moved my stop right there to 73.75. We were very close to a strong turn in the 317s there, which just very quickly popped in. Did change the dynamic of our 1 minute and even the volume. Of course, we do have 2 green 3 minutes. Starting to see slight curve in the 5 minute. So we're holding off here on any more 10-5s at the moment. Bit of an EK on that last arrow up. It is dissipated here a little bit. It actually was very strong from the 73, 75, 74 level. Well, the arrow didn't come in until 75 there, so. And it looks like there might be an attack cross volume to the red side here now. So we might have with a little more angle down in the 5 minute, we might have our 10-5 reemerge here. And we might be having very close to an EK red here. You can see how these EKs, in conjunction with the 317s, really can happen quickly, but can also very quickly give you the half a point if there's a good timing between signal popping in and move happening. When moves happen and signals pop in subsequent to that, those are the EKs or even the scalps that are a little more tenuous. They can still work, but you've really got to have that scalp or that move encompass 1.5 to 2 points if the move has already taken a point up already before the signals come in. So those are the ones that are just a little bit of subjectivity to, I suppose, if it's the best way to say it. Starting to see a slight more curve in the 5-minute ergodics and even the 10. So this could be trying to establish a bit of a bottom here. There might be, or at least a near-term bottom at any rate. There might be a support level we're not seeing here, major support level. 1 minute or 5-minute one is green. Might have a 3D here going on if we do get a signal. White arrow. And that may transition into a 3B. Phase 3 is typically in the half a point range, though with a strong move it can really extend up to the 1 point target. We've moved up here above that 75.50 support level or resistance level. You can see on the 317 chart. Strong 3-minute ergodics. Spiking in the 1-minute bias. Very strong bias in the 317, even the volume. Nice turn in one of those 5 minutes and one of the 10 minutes. These 10 minutes turn nicely with a bit of an agreement in the bias angle. We have a setup 10. Yeah, if there's any comments, the protocol is that we ask the questions in the question pane, and Greg and I will answer them. We have just Greg and I unmuted because it just keeps the moderating cleaner when there's only a couple of people dialoguing and then just responding to questions that are popped up in the question pane, rather than having a completely open forum, which we've discovered is the best way to approach things. So if you have questions, just throw them up in the question pane, and I'll do my best to answer them. Was a real quick that came in there, EK. I wasn't quick enough myself to take it, though. It looks like it would have very easily filled half a point. And waiting for this 5-minute here, this 5-minute ergodic to turn here, which may happen when the volumes minutes 317s change back to the green side. I don't think I muted myself there, perhaps in answering a question there, but and maybe I am repeating myself, but I'll do it just for the sake of maybe not having unmuted myself and no one heard me. We, in terms of any questions or thoughts, we have participants throw up those questions on the. We're heading toward an EK here, green. Throw them up in the question pane. Greg and I will endeavor to answer them, but we found over the course of time that having just Greg and I as the moderators, being ones that are unmuted, It makes it for a cleaner presentation, a cleaner understanding without having the fray of other people speaking and speaking over each other, and then potentially missing setups that are being they're approaching. So if you have any questions, just throw that up on the question pane, and and we'll take it from there. So we could range back down here. 73.25 is a little bit of a support level as well, but we could range back down to the 72.50, 72.25 level before these 5 minutes do turn. Biases are starting to angle down. In fact, actually the 10 minutes angled down quite nicely. So we do have some competing strengths here, competing forces. As a result, even though we've ranged up a little bit, for the most part, we've actually just gone sideways in the last 20 minutes or so. Very close to a 1C, not there though, on that last arrow. And in the midst, very close to that low again of 72.25. And it's not atypical to think that we'd bounce off that again before having a bigger move up. It would certainly create a head and shoulders pattern in reverse there. You can see the first bounce at 72.25, back up to 76, back down to 72.25. If it moves back up above the 76, it would be that technical pattern there that would be established. It would give us more comfort in conjunction with some of the bigger time frame ergs turning. There's a very close to an EK green there. I'd like to see a little bit more spike in the volume bias before I would take that. But it may actually work. There is some spiking in the 317 right now. It can cause this to push up through the 317 trend line. 3-minute bias starting to turn up actually, which is quite nice. And in fact, it actually did. Now see a little bit more angle on the volume bias, which makes that EK just a little stronger and a little clearer, and would have tapped on half a point there. Well, let's see if this can start us to propel us back up toward that 76 again. And in the meantime, if we can see something in the smaller charts very close to a 1 volume. Of course, the start of this move was down there at the first arrow at 73.50. So we need to see a little bit of a pullback here before we can really consider anything. But certainly that the EK now is actually very strong. 317s have really contributed to that. And as I say, we're going sideways within a 4-point range here. Ideally would like to see us break out top or bottom, or set up in a smaller time frame emerge, either at the bottom going up or the top going down, rather than taking something in the middle of this 4-point range. Looks like it might be a strong attack cross in the 317 attack in the bias here. Not enough for a 3C right at the moment. Don't have volume. D is not there. And so we're just holding off here. We are in the middle of this 4-point range. Not an ideal place to trade from. We are starting to move up. A continuation there of that EK. Separation again in the attack chart in the volume. And yeah, this is moving on up to that 76 level. Very close to a 3C, which might transition into a 3B. And we had a bit of a pullback there. 74, 73, 75, 74, 75 to 73, 75, but we've had no signal since. Very close again to the top of this range, 76. That 5-minute that's red is now really threatening to turn green. Looks like there might be a green attack cross forming as well. Very close to a 3C here. We've advanced here 1.5 points from that pullback. Would have liked to have seen a signal come in before this advance. Would like to see a bit of a pullback here again. Which we do have. 317s, red but perhaps turning green. Volumes at the top wanting to turn red. There might be an opportunity here, being a pullback for a move through the 76 level. Flashing green on that other 5-minute. Strong 3-minute ergodics. Close to a 3B as well. Entirely there yet. Do have a 3-1 right at the moment. I'm looking for a signal, and this really could move into a 3B. A white arrow. 317s have just been a little bit wonky for the last 10 or so minutes. Not really moving together. Again, for my for my tracking purposes, I do have at this point 2.5 points that I can risk in terms of gaining more points, and I'll do that selectively here. And we always want to look for solid setups. There was a 3-1 arrow that came in. Actually clicked at it and got 76, so that was a good entry there. This could transition into a 3B, or even a 5-3. And 77 is another point of resistance there. from about 10:15 or so. And that being said, we still have a strong 3-1. It's moving into a 5-3 as well. This is building to really move through this 77. Got my target set a little bit higher. Always ready to even take the 3 ticks below that 77. Tapping on 3 ticks again. Still strong 3-1, building into that 5-3. 317's moving into this, tapping on my point. And it did move through, put my target higher, locked in my point. And actually I'm just targeting locked in, well, I'm targeting up at probably around 80. Right now I've locked in 2 points at 78. And I just got taken out at 2 points there on that 3-1 transition 5-3, but the 3-1, the original entry is still in place. This is still gonna motor here. Could be having a setup 10 come in reasonably soon. We want to see that bias turn just ever so slightly. We have a 5-3 now very clearly. 5-minute bias, wavering just a little bit though. It is angling up. Can be looking for another entry here. I'd like to see a pullback. 317 bias and volume at 317 erg and bias might get us into the red here and get a little bit of a pullback. But our 5-3 remains strong. I'd like to see this pull back to the 317 channel line. For my tracking with that last 2 points, I'm sitting at 8.5 for today. So I've got a little bit of playroom here, coming very close to a setup 10. A little bit more turn in that 10-minute bias, but the 10-minute ergodic, the bias is flat and was sticking a bit to the green. Starting at the bottom, that could be a very nice run, even up to 83, 50, or maybe even breaking that high if it comes in strong. In the meantime, we do still have a 5-3 in place. And here we do have a little bit of sideways motion, a little bit of a pullback here instituted. You've got a very well-defined pullback right now, which is good to see. 317's volumes red, 1 minutes might be following suit. I'd like to see this happen. Gives us a little bit of a bigger pullback as long as we still have the bigger charts set up in place, and that's a good thing. One challenge with the 3 minutes is that they're at the top. More extended pullback could mean that those are beginning to turn as well, but right at the moment they remain upright, as are the 5 minutes. The 5-minute bias is slightly flat, slightly angled, but if we begin to move up here, again, that should reemerge back to a strong 5-3. Should clarify, the ergodics are strong in the 5-3. We just like to see in the 5-minute a little bit of agreement, at least in the bias. So flat, even angled in the direction that we want is the ideal. Here we're starting to spike again. Starting to see the 317s move up. Attack cross there. 1 minutes are operating a little bit opposite to the volumes in 317s right now, so we might go a little bit sideways until that joins in. Nice angle forming in the 3-minute right now. 3-minute ergodics may be starting to curve a bit. 10-minute bias is angled down, so that's not agreeable for an emerging sit-up 10 at the moment. Bias in the 5-minute is flat, and 3-minute ergodics, well, if it pushes up here again in this range, they should straighten out, and I'd like to see that happen with the volumes turning here. We do have a 3-1, or sorry, a 1 volume going down. We had the 3-minute ergodics, those straight up, which kind of is a little bit of a contrary sense of things for the scalp trades. You like to see them in conjunction to some degree with the 3 minutes, and that would have been certainly trading contrary to that, though even from the 77.50 level, that would have been a good trade as it turned out. But you're not going to recognize all of them. The one thing we could have seen was the 3 minutes being at the top with the potential of them turning on a stronger scalp move down, which may be what they're doing right now. Alright, might be coming right back into an EK up here. We do have one 3-minute red, so we don't have any setup right now. We need to see a bit more of a turn in the 10-minute ergodic for a 10.5. But there could be perhaps forming in the next little bit an EK up here. The volume has already crossed, 317 has already crossed and is spiking in the bias there. The volumes are at the bottom, and with the possibility of turning soon, the attack in the volume can very quickly cross. Bias can quickly angle up as well too. So there could be an EK here forming very quickly. It's already showing signs of challenging the 77.50 trend line point of resistance in the 317. Don't have the EK at the moment though. Almost looks like that second 3 minute is starting to turn red. And we're very close to a 1E going down. There is a resistance or support level at 76. Spiking the bias in the 1E. We don't have it solid. And it may turn around and give us an EK up here. Right here at this little mini support level. And it looks like it's going to do the same cross potentially in the 317. Still don't have a 10.5 because of that 10-minute bias angle. And we're in between things with the 5 and the 3. So we are focusing our attention on the smaller charts. We are looking for a strong attack cross in the 317. EK now is really emerging to the green side. One minute starting to turn into this green. And this could, with a strong move here, move through the top. I'm tapping on my half point for my EK, and normally I am just going to take that. I did manage to fill that there on that run. One minute's turning into this, so this could actually push this back up through the 78.75 level. That would not be surprising to me. There was no opportunity to transition that EK though into anything higher, though it may develop down the road. I think I was a little bit fortunate there in the queue to get out at the 78.25. But I will take being fortunate from time to time. Let's say I think this is still wanting to move up here. Don't have anything in terms of the bigger time frame still. We may bounce off our 76.50 again here. Very close to an EK down on that last signal. didn't have the attack cross form. We'll see this holding out here until the 317s turn back to the green side. We are, I was going to say, waiting to see what happens with those 3 minutes. They both turned red now. Bias is coming a bit down to the red side as well. 5 minutes are advancing a bit. 1 10-minute has gone back to red. So we may move back down again here in the next little while, but in the meantime we can continue to push up to the 78, 75, perhaps through that, even up to 80 on the strength of the smaller charts. We're at 1.3 million contracts already today, which is a pretty decent volume tilt. Well, 3 minutes have now turned nicely. That top one has actually turned as well. Very close to an EK down. Still don't have the kind of discernible cross that I want to see in spiking. 76.50 is a support level. 1 minute starting to turn green. So here could be a bounce up here, as we just were talking about. Our 10 minutes now are completely wonky. One's down, one's up. I like that our bias in the 5 minutes actually started to angle up. Might be close to a 1 volume here up as a scalp. And that could be a bit of a propelling up. See, at the moment we are just going sideways. And biases are not wanting to move up as of yet. If they do, we've got the challenge of a 3 minute having turned and a 5 minute being up with the bias angled up there as well too. So a little bit of a competing force here in terms of cycles and time frames. Looks like we're spiking a little bit in the volume bias right now to the green side. I'd like to see that. See that also with 317. Very close to our 1E, even 1 volume here on a signal. It might also be an EK. There's a signal, 77.50. And this could very quickly move up through, and I ended up just almost moved my stop to my target, and I did. I moved it to my 78, so I took my half point there on that 1 volume, but it looked like it was going to just push right through there, and it really can now. I was contemplating just keeping it at break even and holding for a break through the 78 for more, but I just stuck with the general rules there in terms of the half a point target and locking that in. Looks like it is going to move here now though. If we can get a nice pullback, well, And we've lost the one volume, so if anyone is still in, take your half a point or three ticks. Even the 1E is backing off as well. So lock your profit, or even just throw your break even, your stop at break even. 77.50 or thereabouts, wherever your break even is. Now that should have filled your point if you were targeting a point right now, as it ticked up to 78.75. And we've now moved back into a 1E. At least that's become a little bit stronger again. Very close here to a 5B. And nice attack separation in the 5-minute attack. I'd like to see us either pull back away from the 78.75, give us a little bit of a run at it, or if it is going to go through and have a pullback here to allow us to consider 5B. 5B was almost there on that series of signals beginning at the 77.50 level, where I did take that half a point, at least I did, for tracking on the one volume. And here we are looking like we are going to break through here. We did by a tick. Some people might be still holding that one volume. Oh my goodness. There was a bit of a sideways motion there, not enough of a pullback in order to take that signal. I am looking for more of a pullback and then another signal, which we might get here for a 5B. But if anyone was holding that one volume, 1E, from the 77.50, and set your target a couple of points and put your safety stop at break even, that would have captured you 2 points right there on that real sudden push. And that can happen on those scalp trades for sure. There can be 2 or 3 point moves, but typically you want to lock in that tick or half a point with your safety stop at that profit level. And if you can get more, great. And if it comes back and takes you out, well, that's okay. Here we do have a bit of a pullback, starting to flatten slightly on the 5-minute bias, so I want to see that return here. We actually almost had angle up in the 10-minute bias there. Just on this pullback, though, it did flatten down again. It's starting to have a turn in 317, so we might have a double spike here, double reverse here on the volumes. You can see an EK perhaps forming in the green direction here as the 317s are starting to turn, and this would be another opportunity, at least at an EK level of things, on a white arrow, which can very easily transition into the 5B that we talked about. EK is backed off, but it can come back just as quickly. It actually almost looks like it's forming in the other direction, but I don't think that that's what's going to transpire. 1 minutes have turned up nicely. Nice attack cross, spiking in the bias. There is a 5B even. That EK backed off just a little bit there as that signal came in. I didn't take that EK because of the back off on the charts there. I still think it will move up though. Did take my 5B though. Five-minute bias starting to flatten ever so slightly here. I was in at 78.25. And we might be having a little bit of a move down, though we do have a support level here at 77.50, 77.25. See some green bias in the 3-minute. See some spike to that in the 1-minute. Have a bit of a sideways motion, so we've gone flat on our 5-minute bias. So I actually did just get out at one tick down on that 5B. And we could just have this pop right back in again here. We actually could have a 5C coming here to bear. We have an EK forming again here on the green side, so there could be another opportunity here for a white arrow in terms of an EK. That could transition into 5C, possibly. EK's backed off. A little bit of a sideways motion here, not a lot of clarity. And looks like we are moving up regardless. Here's our EK forming again. And it's backed off again. A little bit sporadic here right now. You can see there's a lot of transitioning green, red, even in the smaller charts. Some spiking in the 5-minute bias, so that original 5B had have just held it through the turn and the flatness there might have worked out well. Would have tapped on my point there at 79.25. This whole time we've really had 10-minute ergs that have just not really been working. In fact, actually, we've had downward trending in the biases as well, in the 10-minute bias as well. It just has not provided a whole lot of information. It may arguably have kept us in this range and even kept us, well, the smaller charts kept us from closing the gap, but even from the 10-minute ergodics forming into something nice themselves to give us a stronger indication of a stronger move. Thought when those 10 minutes at the green, bottom of the green, turning green, might have given us a real entry into a setup 10 going up, though we are moving up, but something with clarity. And that is not materialized yet, if it will. Might be an EK spiking here. We've already had a series of red arrows, so not something that we can take, but this may, if it does materialize, push us down to the 77, 75 level potentially. 1 minute starting to turn red midstream. Bias angling down, red attack cross, so there's a little bit of downward flavor here. We have 3 minutes that are both red, angled down, so let's see if we can get a 3-1 or even a 3D. That will move us through that 317 trend line there at 77.75. Nothing's materialized yet, and we see the one minute starting to go back to green, so there's still a desire to push up here, it would seem. Very close to an EK, certainly spiking in the volume bias, but not really in the attack. Volume works green. Been about 15 minutes in this 79.75 to 77.50 range here. $77.25. 5 minutes starting to turn to the red side. A very strong EK just popped right in there. Very strong, very solid right there. It's dissipated a little bit, but that just moved us from 78.50 right up to 79.50 in a blip. See the spiking continuing in the 317. Can be looking for an EK pop through this 79.75 here. Nothing bigger wise for it to transition into. And it may already be backing off here in the 317. Really have, I think it still wants to push through here. We have a spiking in the 317. At the moment, that's all that I can see. We have some angle forming in the 5 minute bias. Don't have any discernible spiking in the volume though. Our only pairing right now is the 3 minute ergodic and the 10 minute bias. That's not one of our setups, but it's interesting to see that those two have matched up. We can maybe see 5 minute wanting to turn into this, and volume ergotics gave the indication of turning to the red side, but now we're starting to see again a spike to the top side. Not the best EK I've ever seen, but we certainly see that starting to spike there. I know there was a signal. Still think this is probably going to go through, but we didn't have the kind of information that we'd like to see there in terms of that EK. The kind of sharpness you like to see in the spiking. We may see here now, though. 3-minute actually starting to turn midstream. Interesting indication here. Certainly spiking right now in the volume bias, not necessarily in the attack. Perhaps close to a 1D. We have moved through that 79.75. We did tick through. And now, but for the angle down in the 10-minute bias, we do have a 10.5. 5 minutes are a little bit long in the tooth. 10-minute bias angling down, so that does negate that, but those 10 minutes now have turned strongly, and I would be looking for some kind of setup 10 to appear here if we can get some manner of agreement in the 10-minute bias. Looking to the smaller term charts, we see the 3 minutes starting to turn here, midstream. 80, 81 is this other point of resistance, and of course 84, 83.75 is the high. The best we have right now, and it's not strong, is a 1D. And it looks like it's starting to gain some acceleration here, right up to this 81 level. Someone's asking about a setup 10. Problem is with the 10-minute bias being angled down, we typically want to see there would be some agreement there, especially when it's a red bias versus a green set of ergs, a buy setup 10. We've had challenges with that before, and that's been what we've leaned toward in terms of our rules. We do have a 1C right now that has now become clear. Even a 3C or a 3B. 81 we need to move through, and this could be on the way to 83.75. Let's look for a pullback here. Even with our 10.5 right now, there is that challenge with the 10-minute bias is starting to flatten now, which is good. We do have a 3B, even a 5.3 right now on an arrow. And this could move into a 10.5. Could be very close here to a setup 10 as well. Looking for a 5.3 arrow. I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback before that, though. Nice red arrows popped in. Give us a bit of a pullback here. That was very close to an EK, though we are looking with some concentration to the buy side here. Don't want to get mired in scalps when we're looking for something bigger in the other direction. But take a look at the scalp as a, or the pullback as a pullback as opposed to a scalp opportunity. So we do have red arrow. We can look for a white arrow right now. Still a 5-3, even a 3B. We have one red 5-minute. We no longer have a 3B. So we're going to hold off on that right now. We still are in an upward trend here, so this one of these can reemerge quickly, and it could start with an EK going up here. So we'll keep our eyes for this EK on the green side with an arrow, a white arrow. Our EK at the moment is backed off, but it can come in very quickly again. We are in a very discernible upward channel in the 10 and the 5. See that very clearly. I'd like to see that 10-minute bias give us a little bit more flatness and turn. Looking for this EK here now. There we did get a signal, though the EK did back off. Got to keep our eyes both on the signal and on the setup. That EK did back off. Yeah, I think it's still gonna move, but in terms of the setup, it did back off on that signal. It is re-emerging though. I did want to take that signal regardless, but quick look down at the setup, and it had gone when the signal came in. Here it is re-emerging though. We don't have a signal, though. If someone did jump in on that without seeing that we lost that, well, certainly it's back again. And you could have been in at 80.25. 80.75 is your half a point. You can either take a tick or hold for a breakthrough of 80.75. We're starting to flatten on the 10-minute bias, so even on that last arrow. And we had a setup 10. The impact of the EK is still there. We haven't moved through the 80.75. You may want to take a tick if you happen to be in and didn't hold off when that arrow came in. 5 minutes starting to turn both of them actually. and the bias is starting to angle down again to the 10, so we have been looking for a pullback here for a setup 10. We can still look for it actually. It's now, bias has actually come back down again, so there was a red arrow indicating the opposite trend. We now are looking for a new white arrow here for setup 10, and perhaps an EK as well. As it moves to the top, it is spiking an EK. EK is backed off, but it looks like we're going to get an arrow here and a setup 10. And a setup 10 could go to the 83 level, 83.50. Just having a little bit of struggle here at the 80.75 level. Last 10 or 15 minutes. Still have the setup 10 though. No EK. Solely a setup 10. There's an arrow. Did actually get 80.75 and a little bit of a tip back there. There's a real sharp spike there. And once this 10-minute bias can get into green, a little bit more of a discernible attack cross, that would be very nice for this setup 10. Starting to show some real angle and spike now after the signal has come in terms of EK. That's okay, sometimes they do come in after the signal. You see the setup emerge and you just hold off and wait for the timing of things to come into play. And I move my setup 0 to bring break even at 80.75. And I am tapping on my, or tap through my point, but far enough ahead on the day that I want to see if we can capture on this up to the 83 level. $317. Waiting for that. Nice change in information in both the 5 and the 3 right now. Forming a little bit of a support level mini here at 81.50. to see these 317s work into this. Very nice biases forming in the 5 and the 3 right now. There's a little bit of a pullback, and be close here to a 10B here. On an arrow, if you don't have the 10B anymore. $3.17 starting to turn. Turning into a very nice set of 10 here. And just almost envision this popping through here when these 317s commit to a turn. Very nice. 317s have turned, spiking. And have moved my stop to just a half a point profit at 80.25, but I am looking to move it to 81.75 shortly, which will be locking in a point on this setup 10. Very close, not on the last signal though, but we're close now. Well, we are here now to a 3C. Didn't have the same kind of spiking in the 3-minute bias on that first arrow though. So as I say, we are just still looking at this setup 10. Did lock in my 1 point at 81.75 on the setup 10. Our volume bias is off the charts here right now. We have some spiking in the 1 minute, discernible. Tapping 82.75, ladder's wearing down. Very close to potentially breaking through. Nice strong 3 minute. Here we are coming close to our high of the day, 83.75. I've moved my stop actually to 82.75, holding at 2 points there. Just a little bit tight. I think there's still some room in here. I'm holding it at 82.25, point and a half locked in. I think this might want to run through this 83.75 level here, so I want to see if I can capture some of that push through. I'm going to be ready if it does here to move my stop to 82.75 though. Profit stop would be 2 points at that level. Right now it's at 82.25. Oh, very nice. Touched on it, 83.75, and it's moved through, locked in my 2 points. And I am actually just going to take 3 points, I think. Well, I still have my 2 points locked in, but 3 points is just a beautiful thing to look at here. Still have some play here in terms of our session time. Still have it at 82.75, locked in my 2 points. And I'd like to see this move up again here. 317s look like they want to start to turn. Still very strong information bias-wise in the volume. Our red 5-minute has gone back to green, and the 10-minute ergodics are still straight up with some bias now, the green side forming. So very nice on all respects here. Do have a bit of a pullback. We do have our 3C having emerged now. Although we have moved up 4 points almost on the start of that move. See when these volumes and 317s turn here. Volumes have come down quickly. Someone's commenting a beautiful setup 10. It really has emerged into that, hasn't it? Even if I get stopped out of this 2-point level, it's a good setup 10 run. The longer we hold the level, the sooner we are to having the volumes and minutes turn and having us push up here to the next level here. Pull back just below the previous high after having poked through by 3 ticks. .317s might be starting to turn here. Volumes might as well. Are forming a support here at 83.25. Came within a tick of my profit stop. Both 317s have turned, green attack cross, bias angling up. Volumes might be following suit. EK might be forming in there. No longer have a 3C in terms of a consideration of a pullback there. That's off the board. Don't have anything else except this continuing setup 10 and an EK scalp that's forming right now. So if you're in the setup 10, continue in that. If you're not, there's the consideration of potentially an EK. It's just backed off here a little bit, but I think it can come back into play here very quickly. Coming into our last 5 minutes, so I think this will probably be our last trade, whether or not I get stopped out or whether or not it does move ahead. All of a sudden, both 5-minute ergs went red, as did one 3-minute erg. So we haven't yet had the volumes turn the way we would need to see, and the EK is obviously backed off as well. Again, just hovering around this new point of support here. And I think we're just waiting for these volumes to commit to a turn here. I'd like to see that happen before the 317s begin a red cycle. I don't see any questions except for a couple early on. So I trust everyone is understanding things, following along and making some trades along with what I'm tracking here as well throughout this morning. Our volume looks like they want to turn now. Starting to show some hints of green. Of course, the challenge is the 5 minutes turning and potentially the 3 minutes turning. Right attack cross and the 3 minute close on the 5 minute. So this may give us a bit of a bigger pullback here, unless these smaller charts can just push us up here. First of all, got one red arrow, and that might be what's needed to kickstart this volume turn. Certainly looks like there's a attack cross forming in the 317 here, and a spike in the bias. This may be our volume kickstart here as well. Looks like we're coming together on the volume attack as well. I've continued to have strong 10-minute ergodics and even inclining 10-minute bias, separation in the 10-minute attack, which we haven't had green over red all morning. Put ourselves in the last 10 minutes into a 3-tick range, actually, 83 to 83.75. It's very tight for 10 minutes. So there is a lot of battling going on to advance and to hold that off as well. Our volume ergodics have turned. The bias is down, though. Do have spiking in the 317, so let's see if we can move through this 83.75 now. We have. Let's see if we can continue to move through the 84.50. Again, 83.75 was the previous high, apart from this little push through to 84.50, we have come in many ways full circle this morning. And we're near the end of our session. And I'm about to just collapse this at 3 points unless it does break through here in the next 15 or so seconds. And that's my decision for tracking purposes. Certainly the setup 10 is still in place, so anyone that's in it can continue to hold as long as that setup 10 is in place. And I just took my 3 points there at 83.75 on that setup 10. Well, we've had a very good day, actually. Some trending in the smaller charts for sure. A couple of very good trades in the bigger charts. Had a double up opportunity in the 10.5, one of the trades there, but total cumulative for 10.5, I've had 3.5 today. I've had 1 point on 5A. I've lost a tick on 5B. I was 1.75 total on 3B. I was 2 points on 3-1. I was half a point on a 1 volume scalp. Combined on my EK, I was 0.75. And then just that last setup 10 for 3 points gave me 12 and a quarter for today. An amazing day. A really amazing day. Combined for the week, that puts us at 16 and 3/4 points on the week. And we had a losing day earlier in the week, and that knocked us down a bit, but we had a couple of really good days today included. And of course today is an example of getting through the 4-point profit level on a solid trade. There was a double up that I took that put me at 5 points, and I managed to just be able to risk that 1 point extra, and I transformed that into another 8.25 points on top of that, with very solid setups that came along as well. So hopefully people participated in that, even to 50% of that, and saw everything that was going on. Still have a strong S10. Bias is backed off ever so slightly with the 5 and the 3 starting to turn, so we might see a bit of a bigger pullback sometimes when this happens. It's always wise to, at a profit level, take out your setup 10 and just wait for, if there is going to be a bigger pullback and the setup 10 remains, to allow that to happen, get in at a better level. And just, I guess for the rest of the day, we seem to be trending nicely. There seems to be starting to trend nicely anyway now. See that in both the 10 and the 5, and even in the 3. We had a little bit of a lack thereof in the 10 minutes earlier on today. Just watch for strong setups, watch for trending, and we seem to be in a positive news environment with those employment numbers, which seem to have overtaken the negative numbers dealing with that, what was it, the negative number in the change in non-farm payrolls for January. Market wants to climb. It's been going down quite a bit. We know we hit 1741, which was literally 100 plus points off of the high of 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So market wants to recover. It'll look at anything to do that, and it's got some positive numbers between yesterday and today with these employment figures. So play safe, and we'll see everyone on Monday.